Hello. Do you see yourself as a naturally curious person? I would say that I am a naturally curious person. I am a natural learner, someone who always wants to know, who wants to share and teach. And especially with back to school season being around, I feel this jittery energy within me to, interestingly enough, even though the seasons ask us to slow down a little, they might make us a little bit more tired, I feel a lot of active energy pulling me towards learning, towards gathering a lot of wealth specifically, the knowledge kind. Now, I'm not anywhere close to all-knowing, of course, and I'm also not a hoarder, which is why I will share my little autumn curriculum that I've made for myself with you. Because the more you know, the richer you are, and the more experience you have, the more you can share. And I'm going to invite you to get your own little cup of tea if you prefer tea, maybe coffee, maybe even a cold drink if you feel up to it. And let's get into it. I want to preface this by saying I truly and honestly believe that every single one of us is a natural learner. There's nothing I have that you do not. In fact, we all enter the world open and beyond willing to test the limits of everything, of ourselves, our own bodies that we've been given, the limits of our parents in more ways than one, and that of our environments. We start interacting with it to see what it can teach us. Now, the older we get, we may get into these certain ways that are quite rigid, just because biologically our brain is wired in a certain way, and if it works, and there's probably less energy being expended if you follow the same neural patterns that you always do. But that does not mean that learning in a later age, the later age I say as if everybody above 20 is absolutely ancient, including me, it does not mean that we cannot learn, it just means that it might be a little more challenging. What we want is a growth mindset. Learning is not impossible and it's not hard. It might be challenging. Maybe any sort of skill that we are not actively honing needs some practice, and that's okay. But the will to learn is innate to our human nature. Do you see yourself as a naturally curious person? Would you call yourself a student of life? And if the answer is yes, we can get to work. I am specifically going to get into this idea of creating your own self-learning curriculum now. I am no longer in school, I'm no longer in university, but I don't want to stop learning. In fact, there's a lot of different things that I'm still very much interested in, and I want to keep myself accountable by creating my own little curriculum. The first two important questions to ask yourself is, what is the time frame, and what exactly is it that you want to learn, and why? Motivation here is going to be very important. It is vital that we get very specific with what we want, because the more tangible our parameters and our goals are, the better we set ourselves up for success. For a long time, I was not really able to plan into the future just because I was very focused on day-to-day survival. But now that I'm psychologically a lot more sound, I am able to actually look forward to a future. Yippee! Yay! I introduced a time frame for this for myself because I noticed if I do not give myself any sort of time restriction, I will just kind of aimlessly drift. Like I'll say, ooh, I would love to learn about this thing. Then on that day when I'm thinking about it, I will watch a single YouTube video, think, good job, I did something for my knowledge wealth, and then I will never look at it again. So that's where I'm hoping that a time frame will help me. I haven't personally read the book, but I've looked into this idea of breaking a year down into 12-week chunks. And personally, I noticed that it worked very well for me when I did the 12-week course, The Artist's Way. There's a couple of vlog videos on my channel if you're interested in watching those. But The Artist's Way was just 3 months of a very structured day-to-day life, which helped me a lot. So I thought, perfect. There's 12 weeks left, so my time frame is going to be September 1st to December 31st to get me towards these goals. Of course, here the idea is to be balanced. A lot of us are probably working jobs. I'm lucky enough that part-time works for me, and so I try to have these goals make sense with the limited amount of time that I have left to do all the things that I want to do. It's important that we are realistic with our goals because, especially me, I know that I tend to beat myself up if I don't do everything that I set out to do. you. Once you thought of a little time frame, it could also just be, I'm going to try this out for a week, see what's realistic. If, for example, you don't quite know how much time you even have available, you could do a little audit of how you spend your time and what you would rather be doing with that time. For example, of course, resting is important and all that, but let's say you come home from your day of working and all you do is kind of scroll on social media until you go to sleep. Fine and well, but it might not be as fulfilling as we might hope. And so if you do a week of auditing just so that you know what you're spending your time doing, you might notice you have a lot more time available than you think you do. Next, we are going to think of our modules. I decided on 4 different ones, and you can get as creative as you want with the titles. I named the first one an introduction to Greek mythology, the second one comfort in fitness, the third one is recording my demo EP, and the fourth one is Japanese 101. Now that you have your general spheres of interest, we need to get more specific. We need to be clear about what each of these entails. This is how I broke down these big goals. So, why do I even want to learn about Greek mythology? I want to get a basic understanding of the prominent figures in Greek mythology, as I have very little as of now. I was just generally interested, and I know that a lot of media that I'm interested in references Greek mythology, and I just want to have a deeper connection with all these different media, as well as getting to know how all these figures relate to one another and just the type of thinking that was necessary to sort of explain our early perception of the universe in this way. I initially considered going into reading an actual textbook, but I know myself well enough to know that it would probably be way too dry for me and I wouldn't get very far. And so I did a little bit of Googling and I found a series of 4 books by Stephen Fry which go into Greek mythology. So the one that I will be reading for September is the first one, Mythos. This is going to be my main course material. How I'm going to break down reading a 400+ page book is I will be reading around 15 pages a day. And what I will do, as I put it down in my little tracker, which I'll show you in a few minutes, is I wrote down and yap about it. And that is really, really important. Whether you just record a little voice memo, do a video, call a friend, meet with somebody, it is so important that we put what we learn, what we read into our own words. In talking about it, in trying to teach somebody else, even if we don't know what we're talking about, it helps us ingrain the information that we are taking into our brains. There's been way too many books where I know I've read them, I know I was attentive, but if somebody asked me, what was that one chapter about? I'd go, I don't know, that person probably did that thing. It's just, if I really want to know about Greek mythology, I'm going to have to get a little bit deeper than that. So I'm just going to take advantage of all the people that are close to me, and I will be absolutely pestering them with little tidbits as I go along. Again, the goal here is not to create a perfect university grade lecture. It's just to talk. It's just to try and make sense of it in my own way. I also annotate and I do chapter summaries as soon as I'm done with them to further digest the course material. A little note for somebody who's a little eager. There's a lot of free lectures that have been recorded by like prestigious universities like Yale, Oxford, Stanford on specific topics. If you're lucky with your curriculum, you can just type free university course lecture and look through what they offer. I haven't specifically found one on Greek mythology, but I did find an ancient Greek history course that was, I think, by Yale. And it's completely free. All you have to do is listen to it, maybe take some notes. So I might be doing that if I have the extra time as a little extracurricular treat. The second module that I chose was comfort and fitness. For that, the goals were to relearn the splits and the handstand. Now, I was able to do the splits like once in my life. Back when I was 7 years old and did a ballet class, I remember I was so excited when I was able to do the splits for the first time. And I've been doing yoga for several years now, but I still notice that my mobility is nowhere close to where I would like it to be to just live a healthy, supported life. And so I thought the goal of learning to do the splits, both the middle and the front splits on each side, seemed like a good goal to have just because my hips are really tight. So I'm also really just interested to see the kind of emotional release I might have the more I get into my hips. And there's a bunch of free yoga videos online. This is the one that I'm doing most days. days, I managed to do a headstand unsupported, and I'm still scared of doing a handstand. So for me, learning the handstand is really just daring to try something, to look silly, and to get over a fear. The last little project of this module is to create a seasonal meal plan. I've gotten into a little bit of a rut with the recipes that I usually cook for myself, and I just want to live a little bit more aligned with the seasons. And so now that it's fall, I'm curious to see the seasonal fruit and vegetables that are around and to cook with them, create a little meal plan. Third, recording my demo EP. Exciting! I do music. I write my own songs. If you've been on this channel before, I haven't even introduced myself this video. Hi, I'm Dorian. This is my YouTube channel. And there's always a little bit of a singy song going on in the intro and in the outro, and that's one of my songs. And I've been asked by people around me to put my songs on proper streaming platforms for years now, and I think it's time that I take it seriously enough to at least record them and put them out there. I just need to do it. I think taking myself seriously enough as an artist to do this and to really go for it is what I'm focusing on here. Weekly studio time. My partner has a little studio in their backyard, and I'm just going to go there and focus on that. The other thing that goes along with this goal is applying to an art residency, possibly with my music. Now, when I was in university, I did a Japanese language course, and so I want to be able to get back the level that I had. And so I'm just going to be going through the course material. I'm going to digitize my notes just so I don't always have to carry this huge folder with me. So I'm going to be tracking the revision of these notes, practicing my kanji. I will be listening to a YouTube video, vlog, podcast every day to hear it, to submerge myself, and I'm going to just be a little parrot and repeat everything that I hear to be able to speak, as I don't currently have any Japanese friends. If there's anybody who speaks Japanese who'd like to help me, hi, let's be friends. And I want to be able to get to a point where I can do simple journal entries every day. All right, are you feeling inspired yet? Are you having fun? So now that I/we/you have your modules broken down, we need to track them. At least I think so, to keep ourselves accountable. I need to be honest with myself and just say I am an analog planner. There's been so many occasions where I was like, all right, I will go to Notion and I will figure my whole life out. It never works for me. I know how to use Notion, but I don't know if it's just that there's so much to do. I get lost in trying to make the perfect system, and then I look at the time, 4 hours have passed, and I'm nowhere close to actually tracking what I want to track. So I've just accepted that Notion does not work for me. If digital planners work well for you, go ahead and use them. There's also a bunch of templates, even like a 12-week year type of template for free that you can download and use for yourself. I've just gone back to my trusty old journal. Last but not least, remember, this is for you. This is allowed to, and in fact supposed to be fun, so please do not be hard on yourself, be gentle, create goals that are actually attainable, adjust them if necessary. I noticed that creating this curriculum for myself is really helping me manage my time and also my perfectionistic tendencies. Yes, I want to do it all. Yes, most of the time I can't, and that's okay. I hope you can find your joy in learning, and let me know if you've felt inspired to create your own little curriculum. It's never too late, even if the 12 weeks have already started. If I'm honest, I started September 1st, but I did want the first week or so to myself to see if it's even manageable for me, if what I'm talking about even makes sense, and I think it does. So if you're trying this out, let me know. I'm really excited to hear about it. All right, see you soon.